What's up, cinephiles? Welcome back to our channel. Today I'll be reviewing Sundance 2020's Grand Jury Prize winner and Audience Choice Award winner, Minari, directed by Chung. This is also screened in the Heartland International Film Festival, held digitally, so big shout out to my friend Rolando for hooking me up with the screening for this movie. But before I start, if you're new to the channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to Screen Kings for weekly reviews on movies, TV shows, and video games. Now, Minari is basically a story of immigrants trying to achieve this American dream. We have this couple, Jacob and Monica, played by Yeun and Yeun, along with their sons David and Ann, played by Alan Kim and Noel. So they settled in this new farm in Arkansas. It's remote, it's on wheels, so initially Monica is not really happy on their situation. The current job of this couple is something unconventional. It's called chicken sexers, which I really didn't realize that exists. So basically what they do is they try to separate the chicks by looking at their genitals. So they separate the males from the females. It's a highly skilled work, but at the same time it's very monotonous. So eventually they realize that they need to have a job that's more fulfilling and also will accommodate to their needs as a growing family in this new place that they've settled in. And since both of them can't really tend into the needs of their children, they also send Monica's mother, Sunja, played by Yuh-jung. She's probably one of the most badass grandmas you'll ever see. But first, let us talk about one of the biggest strengths of this movie, and that will have to be the screenplay by Chung. He makes the story really feel personal, and I did a little bit of research and I found that this somehow works as a semi-autobiography. So a lot of personal experiences are drawn that makes it feel real, but at the same time there are a lot of heartfelt and humorous moments that will make it relatable to everyone regardless of their culture or their age demographic. It's unique and at the same time it's very universal. This writing also paves the way to make these characters complex and multidimensional, each one playing into their strengths and weaknesses. And the story itself does not solely focus on achieving this American dream. A part of what this makes it a light viewing experience is that it focuses on the day-to-day lives, that slice of life moments, which initially seems to be meandering, but you know, it actually works. You can't really tell what direction the movie is going to, which is actually wonderful because usually in these types of drama, there's a cookie cutter narrative, which the movie really doesn't follow. But you know, at the same time, you really get the key themes involved, all the metaphors. And speaking of metaphors, I think I should tell you what a Minari is for those who are not familiar with the term. It's a Korean herb. It grows everywhere. So I think this herb represents a lot. Like for example, our central family here, Jacob literally uproots his family from Korea to US to let them have that sustainable life that they're all dreaming of. This herb very much symbolizes the resilience of human beings, of immigrants, and also the family unit in general, that they may go through ups and downs, but in the end, it's gonna be the family who's going to help each other. So I like that aspect. So yes, the screenplay really radiates an immense amount of authenticity, and it feels like the filmmaker is really attuned to the emotional rhythms of its characters. I also like that this drama has an unpretentious quality into it. Like I was reminded of another immigrant story that I've seen earlier this year. It's called Tiger Tail. I believe it's on Netflix. While that movie by Alan Yang has really the best intentions, sometimes it felt a bit too over sentimental for my taste, and that's what the strength of this movie is. It doesn't really feel like it's trying to be emotionally manipulative. Even the musical scoring, there's a good mix of Eastern and Western vibe into it, and it doesn't really feel too abrasive. The storytelling is very understated and gentle, but at the same time it's steady and very reliable. Of course, paired that with its dream-like cinematography, it feels like this movie is like a memory from a past childhood, which very fitting because in terms of point of view, we really have two point of views here. And what makes this a balanced viewing is that we get the emotional stuff mostly coming from the character of Yeun, this father who really wants to have this life for his family, but sometimes it came to a point that he's not quite sure if it's doing it for the family or he's doing it for his pride. So we see a lot of conflict brewing here, testing his marriage with his wife. There's the flailing farm, which can be unsuccessful since it's very risky. He's really making things work against all odds, which in essence is like risking his family. What's wonderful here is that the character of Monica, played by Yeun, plays it beautifully. There's a balance of grace and frustration. Like Like, he's not this one-dimensional nagging wife who's just bickers on everything that Jacob is doing wrong. She's acting more as a conscience of Jacob. So seeing those dynamics, those unspoken feelings bubbling inside, that anger, resentment, betrayal, is something that's truly heartbreaking. Going to another point of view, I think the scene stealer of this movie would have to be the kid played by David. He is really charismatic here. Actually, he carries a good deal amount of story in his back. Like, the level of cuteness of this kid immediately brightens up the room. Of course, he's very childish, but at the same time, he's mischievous. That's where the short burst of humor that this film really needs gets it from, most especially in his dynamic with his grandma, because David here has this construct of what an American grandma should be, and that grandma, since she's unconventional, she doesn't really fit into that profile. So you can see that there's a strain into their relationship at the beginning, then eventually they will ease up on each other, which could be a really delightful relationship. And speaking of being mischievous, the grandmother is also equally mischievous. Yuh-jung is another bright character that fills up the room. In a lot of ways, I was reminded of Sushan Shao in The Farewell. Both characters really leave a mark in the hearts of the viewers. She's this pluckish grandma who can't cook, who teaches his grandkids how to play gambling cards. She does whatever she wants, and it's really one of these fun comic reliefs of the movie. And of course, since this is an immigrant story, I think another aspect that the movie nails is the converging of the cultures. Of course, we can expect some Korean food served on the table, but apart from that, the movie does a role reversal. Like, usually Americans will make fun of the Asians and their weird customs and practices, but in here you can see everything on the perspective of our Korean family here. You've seen them reacting to the practices of this rural setting, very evangelical influenced community. In fact, there's a character here played by Patton. He's a farmhand, so he's an evangelist. So there's a lot of scenes where he's getting weird looks from Steven Yeun's character because he's not really accustomed into this way of living. What's wonderful is that the movie never really created tension in those moments. What keeps this viewing a lighter experience is that most of the characters here are progressive, even though it's set on 1980s. The community are very accepting of the Asian family that we have, and most of the conflicts here are really grounded to universal themes, like a husband and wife who are debating whether work or family is more important. Things like that I think Minari will appeal to cross-generational audience regardless of their age demographic. Also, whenever you see the stories of the minority being told on screen, that's already a wonderful plus factor, I guess. And the film does it in a way that's not too overbearing. Like, it doesn't dramatize everything. It does not put everything on rose-colored lenses. It just looks like a fun memory. And even if it gets into its dark moments, it doesn't feel too overbearing. So yes, I think Minari will arrest the hearts of everyone. The story of a first-generation family trying to make the ends meet. It's just a heart-wrenching portrait of a family trying to make things work. Again, this story feels universal and unique in a way that it's not just about the story of an immigrant family trying to integrate their roots into a new society, but it's also a story of a father who's trying to assimilate his role in a family. The only minor gripe that I have is that I think it needed a bit of coherence towards the end of the movie because there's a big moment that happens there. But you know, I guess I'm gonna scrape that little bit of ambiguity that happens toward the end because I think it's a challenge for the viewers to interpret on what really happened, and most importantly, what that Minari represents in the lives of this Korean family. I think this movie is very self-reflective and meditative, and usually these slice of type movies, they require patience, but honestly, I was never bored. I'm loving every second of it because Lee Isaac-Chung makes it very relatable in every step of the way. And again, to have these stories of the minority being represented on screen feels like a triumph. To have this movie being presented in a bilingual family drama challenges our English-speaking viewers to look for other stories representing human resilience and tenacity, wonderfully written stories regardless of their language. Minari greatly benefits from its ensemble. I would have to commend Steven Yeun, Han Yeri, Youn. They are really worthy of Oscar consideration, though considering how The Farewell fared in last year, and just because this movie is very understated in nature, I think there's a possibility that this movie might get stopped. But all in all, I can't really find a bad thing about this movie. It's very moving and profound. There's no grand sell of emotion here. I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 5. And that's it for my review of Minari, directed by Chung. This movie has no commercial screening yet, and given the circumstances that we have now, it's probably this movie will be out later this year or probably next year. Either way, I hope a lot of us can get to see this movie. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to Screen Kings for weekly reviews on movies, TV shows, and video games. Let us know what you think in the comment sections. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.